As we speak, Senator Grassley, chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, is having a press conference in which he is detailing a mind-boggling review of what Special Prosecutor Jack Smith was trying to do before the election ended what he was doing. Whistleblower has turned over evidence of 197 subpoenas that went out from Jack Smith, including to get the data from Turning Point and Charlie Kirk, including against the Republican Attorney General Association. There is one allegation, I haven't heard the audio yet, so Dwayne is working on that, that the phone of Ted Cruz was tapped. In other words, you had a maniac running the investigation appointed by Merrick Garland with no oversight. A maniac. And we should take his passport away so he can't flee the country, because, boy, there's going to be a reckoning on this. That's out of control. Now, let me go back. I'll update you with that throughout the show as we get the audio of what Senator Grassley is talking about. I've just seen bulletins on it. Earlier today, the Federal Reserve announced a quarter-point interest rate cut. That's good. They didn't give us any guidance on where they're going because they haven't got any data because the government is closed. Not that the data was all that good to begin with. All we have to know is that it doesn't feel like interest rates are low enough yet and that they've got to go lower. So I think the market's still going to price that in. There's a kind of a bifurcated market going on right now. Most of the market is going down. NVIDIA, Palantir, other AI plays are going up. Now, I only own one stock. I'm all in cash except for my Palantir. And I'm always transparent with you. I doubled my investment in Palantir this morning. Talked to the fetching Mr. Hewitt, and I said, you know, the correction will come, and then we'll get back in the market. But in the meantime, I really think Palantir is the stock of the future, like Amazon or, and by the way, this is not investment advice. I just tell you what I'm doing so you know when I do stories, you can correct for the bias. I'm not going to buy chip stocks. People make new chips all the time. NVIDIA is worth $5 trillion now. So bad on me, I missed NVIDIA. But I don't buy chip stocks. I buy things that I understand, like Apple, Amazon, and Palantir. Palantir is a big data crunching, Intel servicing, and now complex organization reorganizing software that is becoming part of the free world's ecosystem. And so I sit back and I look, yeah, you know, I'll probably get totally out of the market when I retire and just clip coupons. But I'd like to grow it some more before my retirement income. So I doubled it in Palantir, and they're having a great day. I did it at the start of the morning, and it's up 5% or 4.5% since then. And I don't mean to spook people when I say a correction is coming. I got a couple of you saying, what do you mean by a correction? You mean I don't mean a crash. I mean a correction. I think the market is frothy. And that doesn't mean there won't be winners and losers even in a downswing. I just don't want to generally run the risk of going through another Black Tuesday or dot-com bubble. Not sure what the mutual funds are doing right now. Want the market to reset. But then Donald Trump got on Air Force One en route to South Korea from Japan, and he said this, cut number 2.
Sir, have you agreed or will you agree with China potentially to allow the license of more exports of NVIDIA Blackwell?
So we'll be speaking about Blackwell. We'll be speaking about Blackwell is the super duper chip.
Yeah.
Blackwell's amazing. NVIDIA makes it. Jensen is an amazing, brilliant man. And it's probably 10 years ahead of any other chip. And unlike a lot of other businesses, you just can't catch it. You know, it's mostly you can copy and you can do things you really can't. In the chip business, for whatever reason, that doesn't work that way. But Blackwell just came out. Jensen presented me with the first Blackwell chip 3 days ago in the Oval Office. And it's an amazing thing that they've done. But we're, you know, that's our country. We're about 10 years ahead of anybody else in chips.
So when President Trump said that, NVIDIA took off. And I'd already talked to our broker, and we'd already doubled our Palantir. And that was like rocket fuel for Palantir, too, because Palantir and NVIDIA last night had agreed to do a partnership together. And that's good because, again, I'm of the somewhat Luddite view that anyone might come along with a better chip, but it takes a long time to get a software system out of the dominant position that Palantir is assuming. So I think they've got a very high wall and a very big moat, just like Amazon did for many, 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 many years, still does, just like Apple did for many, many, many years, still does, just like Microsoft did for many, many years, still does. But Palantir is new, and I like the fact that they are accepted by the intelligence community as the gold standard. So NVIDIA is now the gold standard. So NVIDIA took off. Now the rest of the market right now, S&P is down a little bit, like 0.06, and the Russell 2000 is down, and the Dow is down a little bit. The NASDAQ is up a little bit. Gold's hanging around $3,965. But Palantir and NVIDIA, great day for them. Now, what does that tell us about American strength? Just that the American economy unleashed, as Donald Trump unleashes it, is the way it ought to be. I'm going to come to the shutdown in just a minute. Here's President Trump at the APEC CEO speech in South Korea, cut number 4.
In 9 months, we've lifted over 600,000 Americans off food stamps. Wages for workers are rising at the fastest pace in more than 60 years. And meanwhile, energy prices are down. Gasoline prices are down. Grocery prices are down. Mortgage rates are down, despite the fact that we have an incompetent head of the Fed. He's incompetent. I call him Jerome Too Late. He's always too late. Jerome Too Late Powell. But he's out of there in another couple of months. We'll be very happy about that.
And then, on top, so that's jet fuel for the economy writ large, jet fuel for NVIDIA. Alex Karp, who is the visionary CEO of Palantir, went on CNBC this morning, cut number 22 on Donald Trump.
We're just building technology.
Yeah.
We're building technology. We want to be in the strongest position we can be in. And we're repped by a president who seems to be extraordinarily good at figuring out how to make deals. You saw the peace treaty in the Middle East, which I don't think anyone else could have done. You've seen it, in my humble opinion, you see what his reactions abroad, including his sanctioning of our response to Iran. And we're in the factory building the best tools in the world, and that should give everyone an advantage.
And the important
thing is, so he and the CEO of NVIDIA over there in South Korea, they're living it up. One more Alex Karp clip, cut 23.
AI makes America the dominant country in the world. So just start there. Every other country in the world, like I spent half my life in Europe, they're whining and crying, and it's like we have the right chips, we have the right software, we have the right engineers, we have the right culture, we have the right people.
The risk appetite, too.
Risk appetite, right people to ask questions. The whole thing is combining to become a juggernaut, and then these partnerships happen, and that just throws gasoline on the fire. So the real question is, will the GDP growth accrue to all Americans or just wealthy Americans? And the answer to that is, it depends what you do. But I deeply believe, I think we deeply believe.
Then.
Well, no, manufacturing jobs.
If you build manufacturing jobs, which is what this president wants to do, can you build them? Yes. How do you build them? You need AI. Can you train the people? Can you upscale them? Yes, if you use
mechanicals, electricals, and plumbers and construction.
Power. And I know the red tape, you've discussed it, but nuclear reactors.
The number one thing of this administration is pro-power growth. Look at all the power generations that he's approved. Look at all the DOE land and energy they've approved. I mean, this is a pro-energy growth administration, pro-manufacturing administration, and President Trump is pro-jobs. When these things all come together, yeah, it's going to be fantastic.
Is that what you said?
When they all come together, you have a Trump presidency, and whoever follows him, if it's J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio or Tom Cotton or Glenn Youngkin, I think those are the top 4 contenders, and it's probably just J.D. Vance. But no matter who it is, when they all come together and you strip the government out of the business. Now, that brings me to what's holding us back right now? Democrats. Democrats are holding us back. Democrats have shuttered the government. Democrats are causing us to lose $1 billion a day in productivity. Democrats are going to cause people to go hungry next week. How do I know? Because Chuck Schumer said cut number 9.
So Trump is weaponizing hunger. He's turning millions of children and seniors and veterans into political pawns. He's choosing politics.
I don't need to, I'll play the whole clip later. Chuck Schumer is now sweating in public. He's absolutely melting down because Americans are smart. They know Chuck Schumer shuttered the government. They know that poor people aren't going to get food next week. They know that the Fed doesn't have data. They know that people who are working for the federal government aren't getting, Chuck Schumer's afraid of getting primaried in 4 years. And they are mad at him. They are happy with Trump. They are happy with the Republicans. And they are furious with the Democrats. Meanwhile, the Democrats are going to elect an anti-Semitic communist in New York. And that is the future of the Democratic Party. My new Washington Examiner column today is, are they going the way of the Whigs? And my answer is yes. I think the Democrats are going the way of the Whigs. Congressman Rick Crawford is from Arkansas's 1st District. He is also the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, which is why I like to talk to him. Congressman, welcome back. You know, getting ready for this, I was looking over the counterintelligence bill, but I noticed, and I had not noticed this before, you were an explosive ordnance disposal technician out of high school when you joined the Army. And I know this was not on our agenda. What exactly was going through your mind when you said, yeah, I want to do that, Sergeant?
Well, it's funny because I came by it honest. My dad was a career military man. He was an EOD guy. So I knew what I was getting into. He didn't recruit me for that. He never said a word. My mom was upset with him when she found out that I was going into EOD. She's like, what have you done? But I knew what I was getting into because I kind of grew up with it. So it was an easy thing for me to say yes to.
Well, I just think it's a great, absolutely reliability indicator for you on intel. If you've handled sensitive things that might go boom, I think you can handle counterintelligence. You're working on a big bill to overhaul our domestic counterintelligence effort. I did that when you were handling ordnance. I was already 10 years retired from counterintelligence, so I'm older than you. Tell people what's in this new bill and why we need it.
Well, I'm glad you brought that EOD experience up because in the EOD world, the whole point is to be left of boom. You don't want it to go boom. And so what we're trying to do here is establish a left of boom posture. Let's not wait for things bad to happen and then roll up a foreign agent or whatever, arrest them, and then proclaim success. What we need to do is intercept and intercede those operations that are taking place. And why are they taking place? Because in our country, we have a very open society, a very permissive environment. And you compare that, and you know this from your work, you compare that to, say, for example, the former Soviet Union or now Russia, China, North Korea, Iran. These are denied areas in large cases. In some cases, we know they're hostile, but they're certainly not open. And it's a real impediment to our ability to operate. Whereas our foreign adversaries take advantage of our open society and they can pretty much, operate with impunity. And so we have to be more diligent about adopting that left of boom posture. And I think the Secure Act does that. It sort of realigns the CI enterprise so that there's deconfliction taking place at the highest levels. It's not all about opening up an investigation to secure a prosecution and a conviction. In some cases, it's about disrupting and disabling those networks.
Now, Congressman, my day, I call Reality Day, was the first day I got cleared into the FISA work I did at Justice beginning in 1984. And the first time I had a stack of FISA warrants put on my desk for the AG, and I opened up, I said, holy smokes, more colorful. How many people are in this country doing bad stuff? And those were Soviets and East Germans and Cubans back then in the early 80s. I don't know who they are now, but we haven't exactly been guarding the gate, have we?
Well, and this is a problem because we've kind of wrapped everything up in the context of counterterrorism. That's important. Don't get me wrong. But what we have now, and you mentioned Cubans. Cubans are still very, very good at exploiting our open society, and they'll work for the Russians. They'll work for the Chinese. But we also have a large number of Russians and a significant number of Chinese. And of course, we have a diaspora that also tends to be leveraged by the Chinese. And so we need to take a full account and try to get some measure of accountability here with just how many, foreign agents do we have operating on our soil. And that includes, not just those, the big near peer adversaries like Russia and China, but also the Cubans who are very, very good at this and have been doing it for a long, long time. And Iranians, North Koreans, and others that present that challenge to us. and start to operate in a more hardened fashion. We need to protect the homeland, certainly, and what we see is a continued exploitation of our open society by our adversaries.
Now, Congressman, before you came on, I was extolling the praises of Palantir, and I always tell people I'm an investor in it, so there's no conflict of interest that isn't disclosed. But we've got very sophisticated tools for detecting patterns and disruptions in patterns. What does the Secure Act do to get us into the 21st century in counterintelligence?
Well, it's kind of like when we were attacked on 9/11, we did a full review on what went wrong there, what led to that intelligence failure that we were caught flat-footed. And so we did a lot of different things to try to break down some of the siloing, the stovepiping, if you will, so that we had better communication across the IC enterprise. Well, it's the same thing with counterintelligence. What we have is we tend to have, sort of turf battles and things of this nature. We tend to look at through the lens of, prosecutions, convictions, and things like that. Now, it's great if we can, identify an individual, but, from a criminal perspective, sometimes it's more effective and more necessary that we disrupt those CI threats rather than just wait around till they, do something that might be considered prosecutable that we could present a warrant on for them and take them to court and adjudicate them. Sometimes that's, we're waiting too long. And there's a couple of examples I could cite on that. One is with the, that Cuban in the State Department, Cuban agent in the State Department, worked for 30 odd years. Once we finally got him, arrested him, took him to court, now he's in jail. That's great. But what about all the damage he did for almost 40 years operating within our government? And we need to be able to deconflict across the IC as it applies to our CI efforts and coordinate and really assign the best athlete to take on those tasks. And sometimes that might be the FBI, but other times it might be other entities like, for example, the OSI within the Air Force. Army CI does a great job. NCIS, those are some examples. There are other agencies within the federal government as well across the IC enterprise that could be leveraged and brought into this fight. And then having that single individual at the ODNI that is sort of the individual, sort of like a referee, if you will, that determines which athlete is going to go in on a given case.
Now, Congressman, last question. 40 years ago, we weren't very much interested in arresting people. We followed them. We wanted to know who they were talking to that were Americans. Eventually, they get you the Hansons, the Walkers, the big-name Americans who are deeply into our security system and compromising it. If you follow the bad guys, they'll lead you to the really bad guys. Do you want to change that MO, or is that the MO you think works best?
That's what I think we need to strive for, because if all we're doing is waiting around for the metric of success being a conviction, then we're missing out on a whole lot of opportunity to identify, deter, disrupt those cells that exist currently. So we're reposturing. This is we're almost back in a Cold War footing. And,
Right.
You're a veteran of the Cold War. I'm a veteran of the Cold War. We know what it was like then. We repostured to execute the global war on terror, and we sort of took our eye off the ball. And now we have this emerging, it's, a Cold War, certainly a Cold War posture with China for sure, that we need to think about, maybe go back to the future and say, what did we do back in that Cold War era that worked really well to help identify those bad actors, to help exploit those networks and take those down and prevent threats. So I think we do need to take a page out of history books.
I hope you are right, and good luck with the Secure Act. Representative Rick Crawford, keep coming back to keep us informed on that. It's the heavy lifting of keeping the country safe is counterintelligence, and I appreciate your taking the lead on it, Rick Crawford. Senator Chuck Grassley, Iowa, confirmed today he released 197 subpoenas that the Biden administration's FBI used to seek testimony and information related to hundreds of Republicans as part of the Arctic frost probe that special counsel Jack Smith was conducting. Quote, Arctic frost was the vehicle by which partisan FBI agents and DOJ prosecutors could improperly investigate the entire Republican political apparatus Contrary to what Smith said publicly, he was clearly on a fishing expedition. The subpoenas are, quote, nothing short of a Biden administration enemies list. Ron Johnson, Republican of Wisconsin, had to say, boy, this is going to be a big story. It's going to grow bigger and bigger throughout the day. Also today, Qatar condemned Hamas for breaking the ceasefire. They killed an IDF soldier yesterday. They staged a mock return of remains. Israel hit them hard, but Israel is attempting to maintain the ceasefire. If it blows up, it's going to be on Hamas for it blowing up. Meanwhile, our friend Yael Eckstein is over in Israel. She was with our pal Gallagher. Mike Gallagher is in Israel for a week. We have 3 more days left in our campaign to help the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Your donations are having a major impact. Yael Eckstein reminds us of that.
Wherever you look in Israel, it's the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews are feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, and sheltering the poor. And so whatever donation your listeners generously give, they're seeding into God's word, that through those donations of feeding the hungry, you're part of this land.
You are really helping. Continue to help, please. There's a banner at the top of HughHewitt.com for the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, whether it's $25 or $50, whatever you can spare. Maybe skip going out to dinner tonight and instead send that money to IFCJ to help with food kitchens, the resilience centers, the assistance to the wounded IDF soldiers, all that they are doing. Let me also take my relief factor. I barely got 2 miles in today because of a toe injury, which I had attended to, and tomorrow I'll be back out there for longer. But got my Icarian Curcumin Resveratrol Omega right here. Take it every day in the first hour. If you're watching on the Salem News Channel, you see it. And I put it in, and down the hatch it goes. Why do I do it every day in the first hour? Just to remind you. If you've forgotten it today, don't forget it. The Relief Factor Starter Pack costs $19.95, 3-week supply. Try it for yourself. See if it doesn't get rid of the minor aches and pains that are accompanying exercise and aging. In the first week, you take 3 packets a day. In the second week, you take 2. And then you're on the 1-a-day pack like I've been for many, many years. The only supplement I've taken for more than 20 years, and I've been taking it for 12 years because it really does work, keeps me going. I was reviewing today with our small group the Arthur Brooks book, From Strength to Strength. And one of the basic 7 things you got to do to be happy your whole life is walk or even exercise harder. But at a minimum, walk every day. And if you're not doing that, start doing that. And if it hurts a little bit, Relief Factor will get rid of that hurt. Call 1-800, the number 4, and the word relief, 1-800-4-RELIEF, or go to their website at relieffactor.com. Finally, I want to warn you about cyber stalking, which is skyrocketing. Now, there are big tech firms, I've been talking about them, Palantir and all the other people in the AI space, who are helping our government protect ourselves against the counterintelligence threat that Rick Crawford was talking about. We have to stand up counterintelligence to prevent bad guys from spying on us. You need to stand up a defensive mechanism on your devices, and that's Webroot. Webroot.com/Hewitt. Ask for the Total Protection Plan. You can get an all-in-one product for an individual, that's one person, 5 devices, or a family, up to 10 people and 10 devices. You'll get antivirus protection, identity theft protection, dark web monitoring, which is an early warning system, a secure VPN. Webroot Total Protection defends every part of your digital life. There's also up to $1 million in fraud reimbursement cost expense, 24/7 U.S.-based customer support, and for a limited time only, 60% off when you use my name. You go to webroot.com/Hewitt. Improve your entire online life by making all of it safe. You don't go walking around dangerous parts of the neighborhood in the middle of the night. Don't leave your devices unprotected from the bad guys who are by the hundreds of thousands aggregating all around the globe, looking for people like you, going to penetrate your devices and steal your stuff. Don't let it happen to you. Webroot.com/Hewitt. 60% off Webroot Total Protection. Joined by Mary Catherine Ham. Getting Hammered podcast is in abeyance for a while, but it'll be back soon. Mary Catherine, the Schumer shutdown has crossed, I think, a important point. I think Americans are mad at Democrats now. Do you agree with me?
I almost agree with you. I want to wait a little bit longer to see if I think that's panning out that way. Look, I think it's interesting to see people in media comment like, this is such a chill shutdown. It's like, yeah, because you guys have not been obsessed with dramatizing every single downside of a shutdown because you don't want it to fall at the feet of Democrats. But I do think Republicans just kind of have facts on their side on this one. They passed the clean CR. The New York Times even says it's a clean CR. It goes to the Senate. They need a couple Democrats. Y'all can come on over and vote for that, or y'all cannot, because we're not nuking the filibuster to get the CR done. I mean, this is their standard. We're playing by their rules, and they don't want to play ball.
Now, I think that 46 million people are going to lose SNAP, or 42 million people are going to lose SNAP benefits on Saturday. The Democrats cannot pretend that's because the Republicans want it defunded. I think those people will be plenty angry, and they're going to be plenty angry at Democrats, aren't they?
Look, those are the people who are holding this up, right? They're like, we're going to go to court and demand that Trump use other funds. It's like, no, that's like using, it's like paying off the farmers for the damage done by tariffs. Like, you caused the issue, just fix the issue by opening the government. End of story. Also, I saw a great comparison the other day between Glenn Youngkin, who's like, hey, I've been governing well. We have money. So we're going to be standing in for SNAP benefits. In the meantime, we have the resources to do that, and we will get that done. That's a Republican governor. Maryland, Wes Moore, Democrat, is like, they have refused to say whether they'll reimburse us, and obviously we don't have any money because we don't govern well and we don't save our money, and so there's nothing we can do for you. And it looks like, and because it's true, that these people are leveraged for Democrats while Republicans are trying to solve the problem.
Well, I think that is the overwhelming. I think the Democrats are going to fold their tent because letting 40 million people go hungry is not on their agenda, and they're going to get stuck, and that's going to be tattooed. Chuck Schumer melted down. I'll play it for the audience next hour. But I want to turn to the breaking story about Jack Smith, and I don't know if you've had a chance to catch up on Chuck Grassley's presser, where he said a whistleblower gave us the 197 subpoenas that Jack Smith used to wiretap Ted Cruz and surveil Charlie Kirk and Turning Point. This is massive. This is beginning to make Richard Nixon's enemies list look like a playground stunt.
Right. Yeah, I love how liberals just pretend like this is no big deal. They're just grabbing senators' phone records without sort of any predication. What's the alleged crime here, or the probable cause? I would love to hear. And then it expanded, of course. It feels reminiscent of Obama IRS years to expand, but even more sinister style, into all of these conservative leaders and conservative organizations. Because, of course, what they do is they justify anything by saying Trump is a unique threat, therefore we uniquely must use the levers of power against him in these corrupt ways. And they think that's fine. And that's what's always bothered me about everyone from Fauci to Comey to Jack Smith.
When they went out and got Jack Smith from The Hague, where he had been exiled to do war crimes,
Yeah.
I mean, war crimes might sound sexy, but it's actually not what you want to do if you go to justice. In my days at Justice, there was the Office of Special Investigations, which looked for Nazis, 30 years after the war was over. It's where you put people when you couldn't fire them and they had screwed up. They got sent. It's sort of like Slow House if you watch Slow Horses. And so that's where you went. I think Jack Smith is a nut. And I think he actually is quite sinister and got given the free rein to do whatever he wanted. And boy, did he do whatever he wanted. Do you think there'll be blowback on Democrats for this?
I'm not sure there will be blowback on Democrats for this. Honestly, I am sort of cynical when it comes to whether anyone's going to pay for any of this. Although I saw that Trump's filing a lawsuit in that hush money case to go after them for the way that they ran that case, which I think is worth doing because I think someone should pay for these things. And I hope there is blowback against Democrats, but I think it's largely me who's going to be mad about it and you who's going to be mad about it.
Right. What about in Virginia? Will the laid-off federal workers vote for Winsome Sears, or are the automatons are going to go out and pull for the the imaginary candidate, Abigail Spanberger. I don't know if we're going to have a governor if she wins. I don't think she actually is alive. What do you think?
She's deeply unimpressive, but this is a blue-purple state, and it takes a very special year and a very special candidate, as happened in 2021, to get a Republican into office. Spanberger has not been good on the trail, in interviews, in debates, but I think it's going to be a real uphill battle for Winsome Sears. I voted early today and surprised the ladies out there with the Democratic tent by taking my Republican sample ballot, as I always like to do in Northern Virginia, because they're not expecting it. And yeah, I wish us the best. And I think the AG race looks a little bit closer, and everything's tightened a little bit over the past couple of weeks. So I have hope.
I can't imagine we would elect a nut. Like Jay Jones must be a nut, right? You don't actually fantasize about putting 2 bullets in your political opponent's head, right? You don't. Yeah, nobody fantasizes. That's not a good thing.
It's very concerning. It's very concerning. And Miyares has capitalized on this. He has done a good job of publicizing this. He has done a good job of trying to woo people over. What worries me is that a bunch of people might have early voted before this story broke, and people who might have undervoted and just skipped AG might have filled in their ballot, and then it's a done deal before you get to Election Day. But under Youngkin's tenure, Virginia early voting has improved a bunch for Republicans. They've done the work. They're out there doing it. Winsome Sears has capitalized on every Northern Virginia school board insanity that has happened in the past 3 months, which is many, because they cannot be not psycho. So they've been working hard out there.
Yeah, Ed Gillespie. I just remember Ed Gillespie. No one gave him a prayer, and he finished this close to winning.
I know.
So I'm holding out for Winsome Sears. We got 15 seconds, Mary Catherine. Any chance Andrew Cuomo saves New York from itself?
I think it's unlikely to happen. And here's the thing. The Democrats have to learn this lesson. Like, if they don't want to end up running New York City into the ground because they think socialism's never been tried before, they need to mount a better challenge than Andrew Cuomo, scandal-ridden, entitled, somebody who's not interested in earning votes and just says you should vote for him. They got to do better.
They don't know how bad it's going to be. It's going to be really bad. Mary Catherine Ham, follow her on X at MK Hammer. We're waiting breathlessly for you and Vic to get together for the reunion tour. It'll be like the Eagles coming out every 10 years. The press conference is concluded now that had Chuck Grassley, Ted Cruz, Eric Schmidt talking about this massive explosion of X-ray vision into what Jack Smith was doing for Joe Biden and Merrick Garland. I'll just play you one clip. We'll get to more of them later. This is Senator Eric Schmidt of Missouri at the conclusion, cut number 29.
Judge Boasberg gave a speech about how he was going to thwart the Trump agenda before he got those cases. He was not the assignment judge. The D.C. courts have a daily assignment judge. He wasn't the assignment judge. He's on vacation. Somehow gets these cases at 1 a.m. Was he tipped off? Did somebody tell him these cases against President Trump and his agenda now were coming? I don't know. We should find that out. But Judge Boasberg, what he did to Senator Cruz and maybe other senators, absolutely, and I don't say this lightly, absolutely is worthy of impeachment proceedings. There has to be accountability. The American people have heard a lot about this, and you're going to hear more. We should have Watergate-style hearings on this for months. If we're ever going to root this out, we have to be serious about it, and consequences have to follow. Resignation,
all right, now I can't agree with them more. I've been urging people, a select committee, and that select committee should have 7 people on it, like the Watergate Committee, the Urban Committee, 4 Republicans, 3 Democrats, and the 4 Republicans should be like Eric Schmidt and Ted Cruz, and then let's lay on Tom Cotton, and let's lay on, I'll think of someone who is all super smart here in a second, and Josh Hawley, and let them go. Democrats, put up anyone you want. We'll hire this staff. Let them go, because this stinks. This was very bad. The weaponization of the federal government, so much worse than Watergate. We'll get into that. I want to tell you that the interest rate cut today means lower interest rates for buying your house. And my friends at andrewandtodd.com should be the people you call because they're a bank, Union Mortgage Bank, 888-888-1172. Or you can just go to andrewandtodd.com. Talking to Andrew Del Rey this morning. He's in my men's group, my small Bible study. And we didn't get into his business. We don't do that on that. But I know he's very excited about having the ability to help people again by getting interest rates down into the fives. Probably depends on where you live, depends on how much you're putting down, depends on your credit score. But don't let the opportunity go past you. Head over to andrewandtodd.com and say, look, I've got to move, or I've been waiting to move, and I'm going to give up my 4% interest for something in the fives. Can we get that done now that the Fed has cut interest rates twice, or do we have to wait one more cut? And what Andrew and Todd will tell you is go buy the house, go figure out how much you can afford. Let's do the down payment. Let's get the file ready to go. If the rates fall, we'll drop it. If they don't fall, we will refinance you when they do. But we're finally into the territory where people are coming out of the woodwork to buy houses. Don't get left behind. Get pre-qualified. Get a letter saying your loan is ready to go, and walk in, because come spring, you want to go now. You want to go buy the house now, because come spring, the line's going to be around the block. Don't wait. Go and get your pre-qualification from andrewandtodd.com right now. 888-888-1172. 888-888-1172, and tell them Hugh sent you. The breaking story at this hour, and I always try and cover breaking news for you. Chuck Schumer held a press conference along with Senator Ted Cruz, Senator Eric Schmidt, they're all Judiciary Committee members, on what has been leaked about the, quote, Jack Smith investigation, close quote. The special counsel, the Javert, appointed by Merrick Garland to go after Donald Trump as part of the weaponization of the Biden DOJ. And it's astonishing. I want to go right to Senator Cruz first, cut number 25.
It went to AT&T, and I actually want to commend AT&T for doing the right thing. AT&T is based in Texas. AT&T looked at that subpoena, and they went to their legal counsel. And they said, what should we do with that subpoena? And their legal counsel said, you cannot comply because this is protected by the speech and debate clause of the U.S. Constitution. And so AT&T declined to comply, did not hand over my cell phone records. Now, one might ask, ordinarily, a phone company being asked to hand over the phone records of a sitting senator would notify that senator. Well, there was a reason AT&T did not do so. Accompanying the subpoena was an order, which I have in my hand right here, an order that was signed by Judge James E. Boasberg. Now, who is Boasberg? Boasberg is that radical leftist judge who is out of control, who has been issuing nationwide injunctions, one after the other, trying to stop President Trump from carrying out his mandate from the voters. Judge Boasberg issued an order to AT&T and signed that order, prohibiting AT&T from informing me of this subpoena for at least 1 year. And Judge Boasberg gave the basis for that order, and I'm going to quote from the order Judge Boasberg signed. The court finds reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure will result in destruction of or tampering with evidence, intimidation of potential witnesses, and serious jeopardy to the investigation.
Let's keep going with Senator Cruz, cut number 27.
Judge Boasberg put his robe down, stood up, and said, sign me up to be part of the partisan vendetta against 20% of the Republicans in the Senate. That is a dereliction of duty and a violation of the judicial oath. And I want to thank Chairman Grassley and Chairman Johnson for pursuing this tenaciously like a dog on a bone. We are going to get the answers of every person who signed off on this abuse of power, and mark my words, there will be accountability for these zealots who wanted to corrupt the Department of Justice and corrupt the judiciary in order to try to attack their enemies list. That is unconstitutional, it is immoral, and it is wrong.
It is also so far beyond anything we've ever seen. Senator Cruz likes to get under my skin by comparing things to Watergate. I would encourage everyone to read the Nixon Conspiracy by Jeff Shepard, Geoff, The Nixon Conspiracy. lays out everything that happened with the plumbers and with the Ellsberg break-in and with the cover-up from 50 years ago. This is child's play compared to what Jack Smith was up to, because they were operating outside of the law. The plumbers unit, some of the people at the committee to re-elect the president, they were clearly operating outside of the law. And Jack Smith is scarier because he was operating inside of the law, and Merrick Garland appointed him. So Merrick Garland is responsible. Joe Biden isn't responsible for anything. I doubt. Well, we have a lawyer. We have a U.S. attorney saying, nice old man, can't remember anything, not going to prosecute him. Non compos mentis. Eric Schmidt, former attorney general, a Missouri friend of the program, got up after Senator Cruz cut number 28.
But I think that in this instance, I can't think of a bigger political scandal in the last 100 years. So if you want to compare it to Watergate, this is 100 times worse than Watergate, and here's why. To sort of amplify the point that Senator Graham was making, 3 days after President Trump announced he was running for president, this system was weaponized against him. Jack Smith, who is notorious in prosecutor world as being a Stalin-like, show me the man, I'll show you the crime prosecutor. That's the guy you appoint when you want to get your political opponent. He's a dirtbag. A dirtbag. And I hope he comes before this committee. He's got a lot to answer to. He not only went after President Trump, he went after sitting senators. At the time, I was the chairman of the Republican Attorneys General Association. Ashley Moody was also on the executive board. He came after us. And also hundreds of other people who happened to be Republicans in the United States of America. What else happened? The number 2 prosecutor in Atlanta, a state prosecution of President Trump, which was ridiculous to begin with, somehow meets with the White House. The number 3 person at the Department of Justice leaves the number 3 job at the Department of Justice to go work for Alvin Bragg, a state prosecutor. Why is that? This was an effort to go after political opponents in America like we have never seen before.
There needs to be a select committee like the Watergate Committee, the Irvin Committee. Senator Thune's got to stand it up. They got to go to work right away. It has to have been a one and done. All right. Ever since Watergate, no one's even thought about breaking into anybody else's campaign headquarters and trying to get intel that way, although the dark arts are still out there. They're legal dark arts. Never again should DOJ be weaponized this way. And the only way you get that, not Judiciary Committee, they do a lot of different things. They got to worry about confirming district court, confirming appeals court, confirming Supreme Court justices. They got to worry about reform of law. A select committee to investigate the weaponization of the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, for the 8 years of Trump. The 4 years that started with Brennan, Comey, and Clapper ambushing the president-elect in Trump Tower before he took the oath of office the first time, and the 4 years that he was out of office, and then Jack Smith quit and ran for the hills. Time to pull their passports, by the way. Don't let these people leave the country. And I don't know how many people work for Jack Smith, but when you read Jeff Shepard's book, The Nixon Conspiracy, you realize that the Archie Cox, who was the first special counsel appointed to investigate Watergate, he brought basically 60 lawyers to town and 60 more investigators. I don't know how big Jack Smith's team is, but they should all be fired. They all ought to have said no. They all ought to have resigned. They all ought to have said this is a partisan witch hunt and we want nothing to do with it. And so Senator Thune, Majority Leader Thune, if you're listening, a select committee, have them get going, televise their hearings. They got 3 years to stop this because there shouldn't be a single Democrat elected to the Senate in the off year because they all stood by. Sherrod Brown is running again in Ohio. He knew this was going on. Sherrod Brown knew this was going on. You cannot let John Ossoff back into the Senate. He's a Democrat incumbent. He knew this was going on. This is a ridiculous, absurd abuse of power that has to be a line drawn under it, an exclamation point at the end. Never again in the United States will the DOJ be weaponized against a partisan political opponent like it was against Donald Trump. Let me talk to you about Americans for Free Markets, forfreemarkets.org, forfreemarkets.org. Part of that weaponization was beyond Donald Trump. Part of it was debanking conservative causes, activist groups, individuals who spoke their mind, groups that were identified as particularly effective, particularly vocal on behalf of conservative causes, and they were debanked by regulators because this is the way the Democrats roll. They become a radical party, and this is how they roll. So debanking was ended by President Trump on August 7th via executive order. But now, Americans for Free Markets, forfreemarkets.com, they have banded together at .org, forfreemarkets.org, F-O-R, freemarkets.org. They are there to assure that it never happens again and get a law passed to make sure that financial banking institutions are neutral. Don't care if you're liberal, don't care if you're left-wing or communist, don't care if you're right-wing, don't care if you're moderate, you're just done for freemarkets.com. Please also don't forget, take your relief factor. If you're getting in the car right now, you're about to leave early. It's only 4 o'clock in Washington, D.C., and half the city isn't working anyway because they've been laid off by the Democrats. But if you're getting in your car and it's still a bad commute, remember, if you were taking relief factor, it would be a whole lot better because the minor aches and pains that come with sitting for a long time go away. So do the minor aches and pains that come with exercise and aging. You should be doing the former. You're definitely doing the latter. Call 1-800, the number 4 and the word relief, 1-800-4-RELIEF, or go to their website and find that starter pack for $19.95. You can ask for it when you call as well. 3-week supply, less than $1 a day, $19.95. You can get it at 1-800, the number 4 and the word relief, or at their website, relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Senator Steve Daines represents the great state of Montana. Senator Daines, welcome back. Always good to talk to you. It looks to me like Democrats are beginning to crack on the shutdown because the SNAP cutoff affects 40 million Americans who need their food from their SNAP benefits. Is that your sense of it?
I think we're seeing cracks. When you lose your supporters, you start losing the battle. Certainly when the federal government employees union came out opposing Schumer and the shutdown, that was an important moment for many of these Democrats, those 5 to 10 that are ultimately going to solve this problem. Again, we just need 5 Democrat senators to join us, and we get the government opened up again. This is turning against them. We've seen recent polling data reported by CNN, no less, that show actually the approval rating of Republicans in Congress are going up among independent voters as a result of the shutdown. So American people are seeing through it. I'm hoping that we're going to have a handful of probably appropriators, Democrat senators who are appropriators that want to get back to regular order, the people's business, and get this CR passed and get back to the business of doing the work on behalf of the people.
Senator Daines, I want to play you a little bit of Democratic Minority Leader Chuck Schumer at a Democratic press conference today, cut number 9. It's a taste of how he's feeling today.
So Trump is weaponizing hunger. He's turning millions of children and seniors and veterans into political pawns. He's choosing politics over people, cruelty over compassion. And let's be clear about this. They've been on a crusade. The Republicans have been on a crusade against SNAP all year. They slashed it by $200 billion this summer to pay for their tax cuts for billionaires. So they've never wanted SNAP.
So,
they don't want it now.
Senator Daines, that's called projection. We see it a lot in politics. Democrats are shutting down SNAP, and they're blaming Republicans. Does it wash with anybody?
I don't think so, Hugh. I think folks are seeing through it. Chuck Schumer's reading some points pulled together by one of his far-left staffers trying to save Schumer from a primary from AOC and to save his leadership. Look, we've been chatting with Democrat senators quietly in the last 24 hours. Many of them are not happy with Chuck Schumer's leadership. We need a jailbreak of probably 5 to 10 of them to join us. I think what you have here, Hugh, is Chuck Schumer quietly now is hoping that he'll have 5 to 10 of his senators walk the plank. So he's one of these situations where he's saying vote no, but quietly hoping that they'll vote yes to get him out of this box canyon, politically speaking. He's going to achieve virtually no political win, no policy win. That's what happens with shutdowns. They begin with a bang, they end with a whimper, and it looks like now the Democrats are heading towards that whimpering stage, realizing there's nothing to be gained. They're starting to lose, and hopefully we'll get 5 of them plus to join us and get it opened up again.
Now, there are some lame ducks. Senator Shaheen in New Hampshire, Senator Peters in Michigan. Do you expect them to be part of the jailbreak because they got nothing to lose if they upset the hard left constituency. And John Ossoff is a very endangered Democrat. You ran the Republicans' very successful Senate campaign 2 years ago, so you know when incumbent's in trouble, and John Ossoff's in trouble, I think.
No, he is. One of the key pickup seats for us, no doubt. It's Georgia and Michigan are two key pickup seats for the 26th cycle. In the case of Michigan, it's an open seat because of Gary Peters' retirement. Of course, Ossoff will be an incumbent defending it. But no, you're right. I think Gary Peters, Jeanne Shaheen, a few others are certainly on the reasonable Democrat list that could join us to get it opened back up again.
Now, Senator, I wonder, have you been following the Maine Senate primary where Governor Janet Mills wants to be a 79-year-old freshman senator, which I think is the craziest thing I've seen, and she's running against Graham Plattner, who's a nut. How would you like to have that on your plate if you were running the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee?
You know, I'll take that fight all day, especially against Susan Collins. So you always start with who's your person on your side. I mean, the closest thing to the most thoughtful jurist we have in the United States Senate is Susan Collins. Now, I was with her last night at an event. Remember, she's the only Republican left in New England. In fact, prior to Dave McCormick's victory last year, her next closest in terms of geography Republican U.S. Senator would be either in Ohio or West Virginia. So Susan Collins uniquely is in touch with Maine, a state that votes in the high single digits for either Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or Barack Obama in the past. And yet Susan Collins wins in the high single digits. It was literally in 2020 a state that Susan Collins won her reelect by 9 points in a state that went for Joe Biden by 9 points. That's an 18-point swing. Hugh, there's nobody in the U.S. Senate who's got a wider spread in terms of how their state leans in a presidential cycle versus their ballot when it's split party. So hats off to Susan Collins. And good news for Susan Collins, she's running against a far left crazy communist nut, or they're going to choose a governor here who absolutely has done nothing for the state of Maine.
You know, I call her St. Susan. I spend 3 or 4 months a year up in Maine. I got family up there, and she is everywhere. There are only 1,000,001 people in Maine, maybe 1,000,002. I think she's met each of them 3 or 4 times. She must be a NRSC gift to whoever's running the NRSC. But I think they threw $10 million at her last time, and it bounced off. I can't see Graham Plattner or Janet Mills raising that kind of money because they're both very impossible to understand. Overall, with President Trump and all that he's done in Korea today, Japan yesterday, Malaysia the day before, the ceasefire in Israel, how do you feel about next year's election, Senator Daines?
Well, I feel good about it. It's remarkable. Our biggest issue here will be reminding the American people of the incredible progress made since President Trump took office, combined with a Republican U.S. Senate and a Republican Congress. As I say about President Trump, every hour here in Washington is a new day. I've never seen the velocity of change attacking the woke agenda. You look at geopolitics, you look at taxes, you look at our southern border, the military. I mean, everywhere Trump is active, he's delivering these amazing results for the American people. What we need to make sure happens is love to see 30-year fixed mortgages drop below 6% in that 5% plus range, which the Fed took the quarter-point cut here today. Let's hope that continues. Combined with gas in the $2 and change kind of range, which seems to be a pretty good trajectory. I think it'll come down to really pocketbook issues in September of 26, and the president is doing all the right things at the moment to make sure he sticks the landing.
Well, I'll put one thing in your ear, Senator. I hope when you have a conference, you talk about a select committee on Jack Smith and the weaponization. I just got done listening to the press conference with Senators Grassley, Cruz, and Schmidt. That, I know you haven't heard it, that is astonishing that happened. 197 subpoenas against sitting United States senators.
Yeah, Hugh, we're just getting the same breaking news you are, but reading Grassley, and I served with Grassley on John Thune's leadership team that we meet every Monday at 5 o'clock. He mentioned there was something coming here. 400 Republicans 400 Republicans have gone after, including Stephen Miller and Charlie Kirk. This is going to be remarkable. It's sad, it's chilling, and makes you kind of laugh about the accusations they have against us when they have absolutely been going after us for political reasons.
It's sinister, and just remember, select committee. Let's get all the eyes of the country on it. Thank you, Senator Steve Daines. One of our great sponsors, the American Legislative Exchange Council. Lee Schalk is here. He's the Senior Vice President for Policy at ALEC, alec.org/Hugh. Lee, are you going to be down in Fort Worth on December 2nd and 3rd when I am there? In fact, if people want to go who are listening right now in Dallas, Fort Worth, they can go over to alec.org/Hugh and buy a ticket for that. Are you going to be in Dallas with us?
Absolutely, Hugh. I wouldn't miss it, and we can't wait to have you back with us. We love when you do those live broadcasts.
I'm hoping we get an audience there. I hope everyone goes over. It's fun to see 1,000 state legislators whipping it up over stuff like election security. I hope we get some people from Maine because I want to talk to them about the ballots in the box issue. Why don't you explain to them what Amazon found in their happy delivery box?
Yeah, well, a lot of people are paying attention to the Democratic Senate primary race in Maine with Governor Mills and crazy Graham Plattner. But this story really caught our attention. It hasn't gotten as much attention nationwide, and that is that a woman in Newburgh, Maine, opened up her Amazon package. She was expecting to receive some rice, some paper plates, a toy lightsaber, but she also found 250 ballots for the Maine election, which included question 1 on whether or not Maine should require voter ID. Just an incredible find, and thank goodness she reported it.
Yeah, I think that the instructions must be whenever anyone orders a lightsaber, put in 250 ballots, and hopefully they'll mark. Now, we want question 1 to pass, but ALEC is really pushing election security with model legislation. Am I correct about that?
That's right. That's one of our big priorities this year at ALEC. And if you think about question 1 in Maine, look, Maine is one of 14 states that does not require voter ID, 14 states in the District of Columbia. And back in May, the Democratic chairman sent out a text and said, if this passes, we expect to have 13,000 fewer votes in our favor. Now, he never explained who those people are, whether those people are real. But the bottom line is this was extremely concerning to see these ballots show up. And at ALEC, we're all about developing solutions. I think when it comes to voter ID, if you're voting in person, you need to show it. If you're requesting an absentee ballot, you need to show ID at the request and when you return the ballot.
It's not really that hard. I voted in Virginia this week, early voting. You just show them your driver's license and you go. Lee, let's turn to my friend, Senator Rucker over in West Virginia. She got the school freedom movement going, the school choice movement going with the Hope Scholarships. Why is the West Virginia State Board of Education president talking trash about the Hope Scholarships?
It's been a bit of a smear campaign from the West Virginia State Board of Education and their president. And of course, as you mentioned, our good friend, Senator Patricia Rucker, she's the ALEC National Chair for us this year in 2025. She started this nationwide universal school choice revolution that has spread from West Virginia in 2021 to 16 other states. Now we have 22 million kids, about 40% of K-12 students nationwide that can take advantage of these programs. But the criticism in West Virginia, I think, comes from some of the competition that public schools are facing. And so the criticism that's leveled is that this is taking money away from public schools and that ALEC is anti-public school. And both of those claims couldn't be further from the truth. This funding comes out of the dollars that are allocated for public school students. They spend over $16,000 per public school student. This scholarship awards just over $5,000 a student. So it's actually not costing the state any more money.
I don't know if Senator Rucker likes to sit in with me every single time I broadcast from ALEC, but I hope you can dragoon her again because she's a great radio guest when we're broadcasting from the ALEC conference in Fort Worth, December 2nd and 3rd. And again, if you guys want to go and see legislators talking seriously substantive policy and having a good time, go to alec.org/Hugh. Finally, I want to ask you, Lee, about the ALEC Health Policy Academy. What is that? I know it's in North Carolina, Nashville. What are they trying to do?
Yeah, it's part of our ongoing efforts to educate lawmakers, share policy solutions. And that's right, our team is down in North Carolina this week. It's very timely. You know, one of the topics they're hitting on is hospital price transparency. And just this week in Oklahoma, there was a press conference highlighting the best in the nation price transparency law passed by ALEC member State Chair Mark LePack in the Oklahoma House as a sponsor. This is based on ALEC model policy, and it's going to really make Oklahoma a national leader, add some consumer protections, make sure that patients know how much everything costs before they go into surgery.
I am hopeful that that spreads, just like school choice spreads, just like election security spreads. Find out all about it at alec.org/u. And if you want to join us in Fort Worth, December 2nd and 3rd, tickets are available at alec.org/u. Lee Schalk, thank you. America's columnist Selena Zito joins me. Read everything Selena writes by going to selenazito.com. If you haven't read her bestseller, Butler, you're far behind. Selena, you wrote a very interesting column this week. You broke your leg. How did you break your leg?
Yeah, I broke my leg September 5th. It was the same day that I had been 1,200 feet down in a coal mine with all kinds of, sort of perilous conditions. Nothing happened. I come home and I was swatting a fly and I slipped on a throw rug and turned my leg backwards.
Oh, I hate to even think about that. But you're up and
I
walking.
do too.
But at least you got the fly.
Yeah. Did you get the fly?
Oh, I murdered that bad guy.
He was the bad guy. He was the villain. Selena, in terms of rehab, you're supposed to take it slow, so you immediately went out and did 3 miles?
I did 4 miles yesterday. Now, only your old audience like you and me will understand this cultural reference. But if anybody's ever seen the skit with Tim Conway where he plays the old man and he shuffles, that's basically the speed I'm at. But that's okay. I have endorphins again.
Now, that is the who was Harry? What was the sidekick to Conway?
Corman.
Yeah, Harvey Korman could not keep it together during that skit. During that skit, he would laugh all the time. Selena, I want to tell you about an event last week. I went to the Brett Baer book party, and I walk in the door, and there's John Fetterman. And you know what? You can't miss John Fetterman. I had no idea how big he is. I really had no idea what a massive mountain man he is. And so we had an amicable chat about Selena Zito, because we were at a book party. He said, the last book party I was at Butler, and he said he had to work pretty hard to get there. Did it surprise people that the junior senator, I guess he's the senior, who's the senior senator? He's the
McCormick. Senior senator. Yeah. Okay. It was so wonderful. He came flying in. I think he has a Bronco. And it was held in a barn, which is, appropriate for me. And, that's how I roll. I'm pretty bipartisan. And he just came, and it was really, really nice. People were very, very welcoming to him. I was surprised, as he was, at the amount of people that came to it. But it was a great event. He spoke for a little bit, and he's just a good guy.
He is like me, he does not hear well when there is 150 people around talking at the top of their, and so all I got out was Steelers, and he went on a 10-minute, go Steelers after he was done praising you. But it's kind of nice when the senator knows your book and you're a Republican or a journalist of longstanding, at least fairly centrist credentials. That says a lot about your work. Selena, I want to talk to you about the healthcare system because you've just experienced it. What did you notice different about it for the last 2 months? Is it better, worse, or the same than the last 20 years?
Well, I have been blessed that I haven't had to use the healthcare system in the past 20 years. And I actually can't complain about it. I went in, I had my emergency surgery because, like I said, my leg was backwards. And, the hospital was very, very efficient. They have like an app, and you just do everything through there. It has your charts, it has your photos, and I paid for it. And, that was it. You could do a monthly
Did you
payment.
have did you have a help me I've fallen down button? How did you let people know that you needed help?
Oh God, it was dramatic. So, so I have a split level house. I was on the main level, and I crawled. That was, I don't know how anybody didn't hear me screaming, because every crawl was painful. But I crawled to my glass sliding door and let the paramedics in. I called them.
How did you call them? You got your cell phone and you called them, and then did they put the air cast around your leg?
Not until I was in the hospital and had like all the MRI and X-rays and everything done. Yeah.
Now I want to tell people I've known about this for a while, and I've checked in on Selena. I'd ask her how the pain was, and she would not take any painkillers. Would you explain to people why not?
Well, I took them. You get them for 2 weeks. I took them for a day and a half. You feel really weird. Outside of that, I cover people that simply got hurt like I did and got addicted to it. I have no idea if I have addictive traits, because I've never really indulged in anything that could be addictive, with the exception of coffee.
You're addicted to the Steelers.
No. I was not happy with them from 2016 until this year. You remember that? I wouldn't watch after after they knelt for the national anthem. But I do have a coffee problem. But no, I wouldn't take it, and it was extremely painful. However, I will take the pain over what could possibly happen.
A risk. I think that's an excellent message for parents of teenage athletes who get injured, and for other people out there that they got to watch the pain meds. In terms of total recovery, what are we looking at, Selena? Because you are an out and about person. You're I've taken your place. I've driven from Maine to upstate New York to Virginia, Northern Virginia, Southern Virginia, and I've been doing the Selena thing in your place.
Well, I made my photographers and my daughter take me to wherever I needed to go, so I didn't miss anything. But, the doctor told me last week, it was the first time, last Thursday was the first time I could put weight in 8 weeks on my foot. And he said, give it a week, take your time, and you can drive within a week. And I drove for the first time yesterday. I was so happy. We're so happy to walk.
Shuffle along. We're gonna start making your theme song "Take Me Home, Country Roads," because you got to get back out on those country roads. Selena Zito, thank you. Follow her on X at Zito Selena. Get her book Butler, the best book on the campaign that happened, the attempt on President Trump's life. She was standing right next to him. I should have asked you, I don't have time, if President Trump knows you broke your leg, but we'll find out about that next week. I looked down at my sheet of sponsors that, by FCC regulation, I'm obliged to tell you are sponsors, and one of them is Conservatives for Lower Health Care Costs. I talk about them often, pharmawindfall.com. I should have asked Selena whether or not the bill rocked her, because Conservatives for Lower Health Care Costs are all about reining in the runaway cost of medical care, a large part of which are big pharma's price gouging and manipulation of patents and refusing to go to generics when they are in fact generic drugs, and they had the payback from their research and development investment, which they're entitled to. Everybody gets their patent protected period of safe harbor for people can knock off the drugs. But if you go to pharmawindfall.com, you will be joining in with President Trump in an effort to control runaway health care costs by reining in big pharma. And I'll remember to make a note of that, to talk to Selena Zito about it next week. We do not need to keep handing out bags of money to big pharma. They're doing quite well. Their stocks are doing quite well. Their shareholders are doing quite well. Their executives are doing quite well. Their lobbyists are numerous and everywhere. We don't need to give them another windfall. That's part of the $1.5 trillion, by the way, that Chuck and his friends on the Democratic caucus want to do is another pharma windfall. No. Go to pharmawindfall.com to make sure that that does not happen. Should have also asked her about gaining weight. Generalissimo, we should have told Selena about myphdweightloss.com. If she's been laid up for September to October, that's 2 months. That's not good under the My PhD weight loss program, right?
Typically, they want you to do a lot more exercise and not sit around.
Not break a leg.
And not break a leg, yes.
864
644
1900. That's
864
644
1900.
You lost
50
pounds. You've gained back 15, but now you've lost how much since you started?
3 or 4.
So, and you're going to get back to 55, 60?
No.
Just back to 50.
Yeah, I don't need to get
I think you want you to overshoot. If you overshoot, then you can back up a little bit at Christmas.
If I were
I know what I'm talking about.
If I were trying out for, some kind of an actor's role or something where I needed to be that skinny, sure, but they'd have to throw me a lot more money at it.
Gary Oldman in Slow Horses gained like 50 pounds. How hard do you think that is to take off after you do that?
At his age, it's probably pretty tough.
864
644
1900. Dr. Arn knows him. Maybe he'll tell Gary Oldman about myphdweightloss.com. You want to lose weight the old-fashioned way, do what Dwayne did, myphdweightloss.com. Finally, as we go into a break, over at HughHewitt.com, International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. It's the last couple of days. I'm asking you to remember them as you consider giving to Israel to stand up again as strong as it was before the invasion of 10/7, the 2 long years of war, the nearly 1,000 deaths, thousands wounded, families are distraught, businesses are destroyed, and the IFCJ is there helping Israel stand up. Mike Gallagher's in Israel, in fact, reporting on that every day from the Jewish News Syndicate Center. Listen to Mike in the morning to hear more about that. Go to HughHewitt.com to contribute to the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. And one of my sponsors is Best Hot Grill. I think we're going to start a Best Hot Grill meltdown moment because the Democrats are starting to melt down. BestHotGrill.com I'll tell you about in a little bit. But let's go to the meltdown first. This is Chuck Schumer earlier today in a press conference, cut number 24.
It is not, wait a minute, excuse me. It is not a dispute. It is fact they can use it, and the Republicans say it.
Okay, but there's, only 5 or 6 billion, and it's not cost $8 billion monthly just to administer. I mean, if anything, it would only last.
It does not cost 5 or 6 billion to administer. There's enough money to start feeding people right away. 6 billion's a lot of money, and they're using it for other things. 20 billion for Argentina, hundreds of millions for Kristi Noem's plane. Who are we kidding here? Yes.
What happens once it runs out? If it only lasts 2-3 weeks, do Democrats fold then?
The bottom line is they can fund it just as in 2019, just as in other shutdowns, for a long period of time.
And they also, if the contingency fund, which is $6 billion, which gets you nearly a month, 3 weeks, runs out, then they can pass Senator Lujan or Senator Hawley's bill, both of which we support. We know that there'll be 60 votes for that. Why aren't they calling it up? They're not calling it up because the House isn't here to pass it. That's the way it works. The House would have to come here. They probably would have to vote on the Epstein files, but they're choosing to let kids go hungry instead of having to vote on the Epstein files. There's no doubt about it. They have been out for 6 weeks on vacation.
Just think, if they have all this money for Argentina and all this money for other things, they have enough money to keep funding SNAP, and they know it. And I just want to say what Lujan said. Johnson just lies. He lied about on immigration, on the undocumented. He's lying about this. He just outright lies, plain and simple. It is not illegal, and his own president has done it. Yes.
Are talks ticking up as been indicated? Is there any conversation, any negotiation whatsoever happening behind the scenes? And if so, can you enlighten us on
Yeah, there are occasional talks between Democrats and Republicans on this issue, but our Republican colleagues don't seem to be offering anything different than what their leadership has had so far. We hope that will change. Yes.
Understanding what you're saying about Republicans' options here for SNAP and the contingency fund, are you saying Democrats have no responsibility for the fact that
We are saying the We are saying the Republicans can fund it now, and they're using these people as hostages. Plain and simple. Next. That's the answer. The answer is they can fund it right now. Okay? Right.
So that's our Chuck Schumer Best Hot Grill meltdown of the day.
Winning.
He's really melting. He's melting because they know all they have to do is pass the clean CR. The clean CR. John Kennedy said it best, cut number 11 on Fox last night.
Look, if the bill comes in front of us, I'm going to vote for it. I just think it's a waste of time talking about it because the Democrats aren't going to vote for it. The way to get everybody paid is to open up the government. We're not asking our Democratic colleagues to sell a kidney. All we're saying is we don't want anything. We just want to open up government so we can negotiate a budget. And Senator Schumer has said, well, I'll only open it up if you give us $1.5 trillion and gut the one big beautiful bill like a fish. Well, you know, Stuart, I'm not Bambi's baby brother. I'm not going to vote for that. I don't know any Republicans going to vote for that.
Okay.
So the Democrats have a decision to make. We're going to just stay shut down. I hate to see it. People are being hurt. But look, I voted yes to open it up 13 times. All of us have. I can't make Senator Schumer and my Democratic friends, I can't make them do it. They're looking foolish. I mean, I'm sure Jesus loves them, but to the American people, they're looking like idiots, in my opinion.
I'm not so sure Jesus loves them right now because they're going to make people go hungry. And all they have to do, Chuck Schumer's embarrassed. He led them into a box canyon. And people like John Kennedy are pretty good with a line or two, as are most Republicans, are raining stones down on him. And so Chuck Schumer gets our Best Hot Grill meltdown of the day. Now, why do we call it that? Best Hot Grill goes from 0 to 3,000 degrees in 1 minute. It's the best grill made in America. It is the best gift for the holiday season. And I've been on this for a while. If you go to besthotgrill.com, your eyes are going to go to the big one, and you're going to want it for yourself. And you might want to leave that open on your browser so your spouse or your kids see it, and they realize that's what dad or mom wants for Christmas is the Best Hot Grill Biggie. And you can try it before you buy it, by the way. But if you want your clients to remember you, if you want them to love you, you go to besthotgrill.com and you see the gift of value. You see the gift of excellence, American-made by our friends Rhett and Irene. And you order up as many of them as you need to take care of the clients you want to keep. That's besthotgrill.com, the Solaire Infrared Grill. We got so much audio here. I like Nancy Pelosi at Harvard Kennedy School yesterday, cut number 15.
You're people of faith. You go to church on Sunday and pray on church on Sunday and pray on people the rest of the week. What is this? What is this?
I don't know what's happening to the former speaker. That's not her normal voice. I think maybe she's trying to sound like a Southern Baptist. Let's listen to that again, cut number 15.
You're people of faith. You go to church on Sunday and pray on church on Sunday and pray on people the rest of the week. What is this? What is this?
It really is a question of time to step down, Lady Pelosi. Gavin Newsom, meanwhile, is cooking up stews of words to try and cover the fact his state's in a collapse. Cut number 18.
It's a revolution that's going on in this country. And I think you have to start using those words. He's attacking every single institution of independent thinking. And he's succeeding because we're still playing by the old set of rules. And so my party needs to focus first and foremost on recognizing that. And then we'll reconcile being more culturally normal, more reform-oriented, talk about service and patriotism. And we'll continue to build on the legacy, I would argue, of our former president, who I think was one of the most successful presidents in the last century, and that is Joe Biden. And I will defend that till my grave in terms of the Chips and Science Act, the infrastructure bill, the work he did on the IRA, the fact that he had a worker-centered industrial policy.
Boy, clip and save. Please clip and save. Please clip and save that clip. Governor, I repeat, you put the kids in charge of your comms team and they won't let you near me after you said you'd come on repeatedly. I'd love for you to come on. I'll give you lots of time to talk about how great Joe Biden is. I'll let you come on and talk about how great Obamacare is. I'll let you come on and defend Chuck Schumer melting down in public. All you have to do, the mic is yours. Governor, the mic is yours. Let me tell you about Consumer Cellular, because if you're living in California, you need to save some money. Poor California. I mean, I'm going to go back there in January for a month just to see how much people are suffering. Stop in and see Generalissimo and Adam and Harley and find out how much it costs for gas. You know, it costs about $3 a gallon in Virginia. Is that what you're paying, Generalissimo? $3 a gallon?
No, we're rocking about $4.60 here.
Yeah, just checking in. I really am worried about that. And you got an electric bicycle, don't you? You've got a scooter?
I don't have a scooter. I ride my bike to work and back about 4 days a week to save on gas.
Yeah, that's what we've got in California. But you can save some money with consumercellular.com/Hugh. Remember that, consumercellular.com/Hugh. Remember their phone number, 1-800-411-4454. Get your phone bill out and study it. Find out what you're paying for, and then call 1-800-411-4454 and say, I'm getting this amount of data. Do I need it? I've got an unlimited data program that's costing me $150 a month. Do I need it? One thing you'll find out, if you're over 50, you get 2 lines with Consumer Cellular of unlimited data for $60 a month if you're over 50. And we had their CEO on to explain how they do that. It's just the fact that people over 50 don't use that much data. You can also call them at 1-800-411-4454 and say code Hugh25. It's like the ER series. Code Hugh25. Code Hugh25. What that means is you save money. $5 a month for the first 5 months that you switch over. Not only do you save the immediate savings from switching to a data plan that matches your actual usage, you'll save when you use code Hugh25. So remember, consumercellular.com/Hugh. Use my code Hugh25 or call them at 1-800-411-4454. And a reminder, over at HughHewitt.com at the top is the blue bar for the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Please be as generous as you can be. Mike Gallagher is there. Listen to his program tomorrow. He's raising money for IFCJ in Jerusalem. Go and help Mike out. Go to HughHewitt.com and give a donation, please. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen is our guest. We love to talk to the senator from Oklahoma. Senator, I checked during the break. You were not even born when Watergate happened and the Urban Committee assembled and a select committee drilled down on Richard Nixon. Now, I knew Richard Nixon. I worked with Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon was a friend of mine. And what they did to him was wrong, and people can read about what happened 52 years ago. But I think we need a select committee on Jack Smith. Have you been following this today? Have you talked to Ted Cruz or any of your buddies who got spied on?
No, I haven't. Oh, yes, about the ones who got spied on, but I haven't talked to Ted today. I will tell you, though, Hugh, I am a huge fan of President Nixon. I have read, I don't know how many different books on him. I think he was one of the best presidents as far as it comes to foreign policy, understanding the layout of foreign policy, the need of it, and his political, I guess you'd call astute, where he was quite a man. And I've read bios on every president except Biden and Obama, and I've learned probably more. My favorite president is Teddy Roosevelt, but I have learned more about reading about Richard Nixon than I probably have any other president.
Well, when you get ready to join it with the conference to figure out what to do about Jack Smith, because that guy was way off the reservation. He is a nut, and we can't ever let that happen again. He issued 179 subpoenas or 197 subpoenas against Republicans.
Well,
it's crazy.
But we knew that that they had weaponized the DOJ. We already knew that. This isn't anything that we didn't know. What's surprising is what length they took to cover it up, and how long it has taken Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, and Ratcliffe to look inside under the covers and realize how they use the intelligence community, how they use the power of the DOJ, how they use FISA courts, how they went around all these individuals, and then were really basically writing their own subpoenas by being their own witness. And you're going, how did this take place? How was it that we allowed them to abuse the system like that? How is it that in Trump 45, we didn't find some of this stuff? Because it didn't just happen underneath the Biden administration. This was happening underneath the Obama administration, underneath the leadership of President Obama and Hillary Clinton, who was, you take that all the way to the Russian gate, and now you just continue to move forward. And every time you peel a piece of the onion off, Hugh, you find more information down there. I mean, when I was on the Intel committee in the House, we were dealing with some of this. And then we continue to deal with it with the Biden administration. And now that we are able to get the information, because these individuals that were left behind were covering for them. And as we I say clean shop by getting rid of the deep state, you're starting to see more of this information come out. And I'm going to tell you, Hugh, this isn't the end. This is the beginning of where this goes. But Jack is, he used his position to 100% weaponize against political foes, not against the rule of law.
Yeah, go and take his passport away, because he might be trying to get back to The Hague. But when you wiretap or ask for a wiretap on Ted Cruz and want his phone record, I've known the senator before he became a senator. He's really smart, and it's great fun to talk high law with him and Supreme Court stuff, but he's not that interesting. I don't know he's not the guy you would finger as the mastermind behind a plot to bring down democracy, much less the Republican Attorney General's Association. It's mind-boggling, Senator, that we had a DOJ that went rogue.
And it's funny you said that about Ted Cruz, because he is very hilarious, but he's very hilarious because he's almost awkward hilarious.
Yes.
But he's not somebody that you would think would be running into conspiracy. There's no reason behind it other than just the fact that they're weaponizing the DOJ against their political enemies. And they consider Ted Cruz and other senators and representatives too as a political enemy, just like they went after President Trump and those around him. And it's just it makes you sick, because I'm not one to really talk about the deep state, to say there's a deep state and it really does exist. I always assumed the deep state was people talking about Congress and the so-called backroom deals that take place in Congress. But the deep state is the bureaucracy. Deep state is these unelected officials, not the elected officials, the unelected officials that think that they have this hand over the United States government because they're lifetime employees and politicians come and go. And so therefore they're going to do what they want to, because really no one's going to pay attention, because their boss is appointed, and he's going to be appointed every 2 to 4 years. And so there's no real boss there. So therefore I'm the boss. And it creates this deep state that says that we know best, the American people doesn't, because they live inside this Washington, D.C. called the bubble. And they think the bubble is what should be ruling the world and the United States. And it's created this atmosphere of the deep state, which Jack was part of.
Now, I've been dragged kicking and screaming to using the term deep state, because I normally associate it with Stasi and the secret police. But I had Rick Crawford on first hour. He's on House Intel now. You've been on Intel, so you know if we gin up the surveillance machine on someone, we can really scope them, x-ray their whole life. It's very scary. Americans are not supposed to do it against Americans, but Jack Smith was going about it. So I return to my original question. I know seniority matters a lot in the Senate, but do you think we can get a select committee? Because nothing draws the media attention to something like the word select committee. I mean, that just draws everybody in to watch 24/7. What do you think? Is that possible?
I'm okay with getting a select committee, and yes, it is possible, but the select committee, where it gets hard, is do they have authority? So where they have subpoena authority and where they have authority to be able to pass the charges on to the DOJ. Otherwise, I'm not interested in doing a clown show. I would rather, at that point, if there's criminal charges, to allow the DOJ to put it in front of a grand jury and go that route. if we're doing a select committee here in Congress, I want it to do something, not just be for publicity purposes. And Hugh, you've been around long enough, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And by the way,
you just nailed it. Subpoena authority. Subpoena authority and the ability to refer to DOJ, put them under oath, let them perjure themselves, and then send them to justice.
That's right. That's the only way that I'd be interested in doing a select committee. And what I was going to say, Hugh, you and I agree on the fact that I've always been very cautious about using the deep state term until probably the last 2 months, when you're seeing Kash Patel and Pam Bondi bring out what has really been happening. When you talk to Tulsi Gabbard and she's talking about all these files that they're finding that they're having to dig up, and that they've been, and then you go, oh my Lord, this is deeper than what I was even thought. This is worse than what I even expected it to be.
Yeah, I think it starts with Brennan, Comey, and Clapper ambushing Trump in Trump Tower before he's inaugurated the first time. And it's now 10 years of this stuff, and it's got to end. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, always good to see you. I didn't even talk to you about the shutdown. You going to get the government open this week, or are the Democrats still stuck on stupid?
They're still stuck on stupid.
Okay. I love talking to this guy. Thank you, Senator Mullen. Sarah Bedford is chief investigative reporter for the Washington Examiner. I've got a great column, and I will say that in the Examiner today about whether the Democrats are going to go to the way of the Whigs, but that's not Sarah's job. Sarah investigates. Sarah, have you figured out yet? Have you investigated what made the Democrats run over the edge? You know, do the Thelma and Louise on the shutdown? There's got to be a reason, because it makes no sense.
I think that they just don't know what else to do, right? It seems like whatever policy concessions they're looking for from Republicans, whether you're talking about SNAP or their Medicaid funding requests, is secondary to the fact that they just wanted to fight for the sake of having a fight so they could go home and tell their voters that they fought. And they've done that for 29 days now with nothing to show for it. And because the fight was the point all along, I think they're realizing now that the off-ramp is really difficult for them to find.
Yeah, you won't know the name Chuck Wepner, but they're fighting like the Bayo bleeder used to fight. They've gone 15 rounds, but they're staggering around. Chuck Schumer lost it today with reporters. I mean, he was really angry because the reporters are pointing out the SNAP program is going to run out of money this weekend, and it's the Democrats' fault because they voted against refunding it 13 times. Does anyone accept any of the nonsense that they're spewing?
You're right that you're starting to see that even the Washington press corps push back on Democrats. They are not buying the idea that Republicans are to blame for this, especially when you have Thune, for example, out there giving assurances we will have a floor vote on the ACA subsidy extensions. You have Donald Trump saying, I will sit down with Democrats and we'll hash this out as soon as the government is reopened. So Democrats have effectively gotten the thing they say that they're holding the shutdown over. And so now the question is, why? Why continue to do this? That's likely the extent of the concessions they're going to get out of Republicans.
The definition of flailing is when the excuse changes every day. So for a couple of weeks, we heard that they wanted it to be about Obamacare subsidies. Now they've switched to SNAP. Now they've switched to paying some employees and not other employees. They are off message. Have you noticed it? They're way off message.
Not only that, but you're also starting to see cracks. The move from the largest federal employee workers union, the AFGE, this week really put pressure on Democrats because that's their constituencies. And a lot of those federal workers are in Virginia and New Jersey, where you have key members. You have Democratic leadership expressing concern about that. They're losing their base even on this. And so for Democrats, how do they take an off-ramp that still allows them to save face when Republicans hold all the cards right now is the question they should have been asking themselves 5 weeks ago.
Well, Chuck Schumer is not exactly on top of things. Let me turn over to the Arctic Frost press conference today run by Chuck Grassley, Ted Cruz, Eric Schmidt, and others. I'm astonished by this. I knew Jack Smith was a rogue, and I knew he was a Javert and a bit sinister. I had no idea he'd issued up to close to 200 subpoenas against Republicans and Republican organizations. Did you cover that today? Were you over? That's mind-blowing what he was doing.
We did cover this, and everything that's come out so far about Arctic frost has suggested that this was an extremely wide-ranging, sinister fishing expedition against essentially the entire conservative movement in search of anything they could possibly charge as a crime. And I do think this goes beyond Jack Smith. This shows how sort of rotten to the core some of the FBI had become. This was spread out over dozens of FBI field offices, different U.S. attorney offices across the Biden DOJ, and a lot of this activity predated Jack Smith. Arctic frost began as a separate FBI investigation that Jack Smith inherited. And so you should see accountability for people who drove those politicized prosecutions against Donald Trump forward. But this is a deeper problem because this involved the entire power of the FBI being marshaled against the conservative movement.
Yeah, it's my view that the big bang of the weaponization was the meeting between President-elect Trump with James Comey, John Brennan, and James Clapper when Comey stayed behind and fed him the Steele dossier and then went down and leaked it. But a select committee is a big deal because some senators have to say, okay, I'll get out of the way, regardless of seniority. What are the odds of that happening? Because the advantage is it really focuses the mind when you give subpoena power to whoever chairs it, whether it's Ted Cruz or Josh Hawley or Eric Schmidt. We got a lot of good lawyers, Tom Cotton. We got a lot of good lawyers in the Republican side. What are the chances of that happening?
I think the odds go up when you have Republicans themselves realizing they were targets of some pretty aggressive investigative tactics from this very politicized FBI. So that's certainly something you could see.
Yeah, I'd love for them to get subpoena power and the ability to make referrals to DOJ and put people under oath in front of people. I'm old enough to remember the Watergate hearings. Happened when I was in high school. Everybody watches. Sarah C. Bedford, follower on X, joined by former Senator Jim Talent, who represented Missouri for many years in the United States Congress. Senator, I'm going to go right to go. I'm not going to pass. I'm going to collect my $200. I want a select committee in the Senate, like the Irvin Committee that was formed during Watergate. It only had 7 members. I'd like ours to be chaired by Lindsey Graham, but with Tom Cotton, Ted Cruz, Eric Schmidt, Josh Hawley, John Kennedy on it, and half as many Democrats with subpoena power for one reason, the same reason that the Irvin Committee worked. It draws the media like moths to a candle. It is just the perfect way to draw in national attention to the weaponization of the federal government. That press conference today blew me away. Tell me all the reasons it won't happen.
Well, it's certainly, I would be shocked if it happens without Chuck Grassley chairing it. I'll just say that right up front, and Ron Johnson on it as well. Well, the downsides are the select committee won't be able to initiate legislation. It'll have to start over in terms of hiring staff, and most of the staff it'll hire are Judiciary Committee staffers anyway. So the question comes up, why don't we just let the Judiciary Committee do it? They've been doing a good job. Now, you are correct. I think it would be a bigger publicity pig. So I think they'll continue this investigation for the time being. They'll see where it leads. And if it gets bigger and bigger, which is what they've been signaling, then yeah, you might see it at that point. I wouldn't expect to see it happen soon, though.
Senator, did you ever read Jeff Shepard's The Nixon Conspiracy, the definitive work on Watergate and how it happened and how Judge Sirica worked with Sam Ervin and Sam Dash and Archibald Cox? All of these people came together to bring down Nixon, and they did. And we don't want to bring down the president. We want to help the president. We just need to sanitize the Bureau, the agency, the Department of Justice, and maybe they need a special counsel as well, a U.S. attorney, so that they're not unconstitutional like Jack Smith was held to be by Judge Cannon. But the advantage is I only wanted lawyers, and God bless Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson. They're not lawyers. And I want someone who's done cross-examination.
I hear you. They've done a lot of good work, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and there is the Sirica thing is interesting because there are now suggestions about some possible improprieties by Judge Boasberg being involved in this.
Right.
And I do know, I didn't read the book, but I do know that Sirica was working hand in glove with the investigators in a way that was probably inappropriate for a federal judge. So that's another avenue here that's going to be pursued. This is the first day. I mean, we knew about this. We've known about Arctic frost for a long time. I agree with you. I think this is a new level today. They're going to have to get the government open, and then they're going to talk about what to do. What you're suggesting, I think, could happen. It's going to be interesting. Like I say, though, I mean, Chuck Grassley has been on this like as we say in Missouri, a duck on a June bug, and he's going to want to continue to be part of it, and I think he's earned that right.
Do you say that in Missouri? That might take Eric Schmidt off the committee, actually, if you say duck on a June bug. That one could. That's why we want Lindsey Graham to chair it. John Kennedy to be on
what
it.
I'm talking about. And he gave a great set of remarks today. He's genuinely offended by this. And you know what, I have to believe that there are some Democrats who are a little bit hinky about the Bureau conducting this fishing expedition and looking at senatorial phone records. That ought never to happen, unless there's a real crime, Bob Menendez and the gold bars and all that sort of thing. But this was a highly political thing. I mean, I guess they'll claim there was some kind of weird theory of a crime having been committed, but this was a political investigation, and it's a bad thing. And bad for the Bureau.
I really would not be surprised if my name is on that list because I'm a conservative talk show host, and they went after the late Charlie Kirk. But the Republican Attorney Generals Association, I have addressed them 2 or 3 times. It's a wonderful group. It is the dullest gathering in the United States. You know what we did the one time? We toasted Beau Biden after his death. That was a wonderful thing. They're not really radicals. It's astonishing to me.
As I said before, if there's a real crime they're investigating, bribery or something like that,
abscam,
abscam, then you can go get the. But it needs to be something where you explain it in 15 seconds, and the American people say, "Oh yeah, that's a real crime. They needed to do that." And of course they can't. And I think they believed they were going to be in power indefinitely, and nobody would ever investigate and find it out. And obviously they were wrong. And you're right about Jack Smith. There 4 different jurisdictions filed hundreds of charges against President Trump, all of them baseless, except possibly the classified information charge in Mar-a-Lago. And that one they screwed up, that investigation. So
Jack Smith's not a very good lawyer. But let me ask you if you are genuinely shocked, because up until, I guess I got used to weaponization against Trump, but going after sitting senators implies a degree of assumed immunity to accountability that I've never seen in the government before. That's what's shocking.
Right. Well, I mean, if we want to take a political scientist point of view, and you and I have talked about this a little bit before, the Congress has gradually been enervated. In other words, it doesn't pass legislation. It's paralyzed a lot of the time. It can't do appropriations bills. And it's therefore, and they're doing a much better job of it this year until this shutdown. And so therefore, it's not as able to protect its institutional rights and privileges. I mean, this is the kind of thing you would get up on the floor and raise a point of personal privilege. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to hear Ted Cruz. I mean, he basically did it. I wouldn't be surprised to hear him do that. It's a point where you're claiming that there has been an attack, upon your personal rights as a senator. Maybe Ted will hear this and decide to do it. So
I don't know if senators can bring Bivens cases, but certainly the average American can. And anyone on those 197 subpoenas, they've got a Bivens case against the United States government. I won't get into it. It's law stuff, but it means when the federal government violates your constitutional rights, and this is that. This is J. Edgar Hoover on steroids with modern technology. Jim Talent, thank you. We'll see what John Thune. They probably don't want to do it. They love Chuck Grassley, but I want to cleanse the stables. And boy, do the stables need. Jim, hold on for a second. I want to ask you a question off air. We'll put it on tomorrow or on the podcast. I may have to find Jeff Shepard and have him on. He was part of the Nixon White House really, really brilliant lawyer. And he ended up being part of the Watergate defense team, unsullied by the plumbers, had nothing to do with the committee to reelect, had nothing to do with John Dean, that lion sack of bricks. And his book, The Nixon Conspiracy, is the single best A to B to C to D to E to F, what happened, when it happened, and how Judge Sirica, I'm forgetting how to pronounce that, Sirica, I'm getting it wrong, how he operated with Sam Dash and Archibald Cox and then Leon Fulbright Jaworski, how they all worked together in a ballet to bring down Nixon. We don't got no one to bring down, right? We're not going after Trump. I really just think that the United States can't allow this kind of an episode to go uninvestigated. It makes the church committee look like playthings. When you're trying to surveil the United States senators, when you're going after conservative activists who are just talking and assembling and doing their stuff, I don't really have any idea what they were thinking, unless they were thinking, let's just find whatever we can find about whatever Republicans we can find doing anything that we can turn into a crime. That's what they were doing. And that can't happen again. That is Stasi stuff. Surveil everyone and you'll find someone doing something wrong. So Jack Smith and the Stasi segment of the FBI, who have hopefully been fired by Kash Patel and Dan Bongino now, but we got to throw a lot of light on it. Light is the disinfectant. Let me remind you about Relief Factor. I'm in the Relief Factor studio wrapping up the show today and looking forward to tomorrow. I think I get a lot of miles in tomorrow morning and looking forward to it. But in the interim, if you are going home right now and you're caught in traffic and your neck is killing you or your shoulder is bothering you or you're sitting with your knuckles under your rear end because it just hurts, try Relief Factor. Call them at 1-800, the number 4 and the word relief. Or, I don't know what it is. Everyone gets different aches and pains whenever they exercise as they grow older. Whatever it is that's bothering you that you take Advil or Aleve or any kind of over-the-counter for, try Relief Factor. 1-800, the number 4 and the word relief. Their starter pack is 3-week supply, $19.95, less than $1 a day. You can also go to their website, relieffactor.com. I also have I'll post all the senator interviews at my YouTube channel. Send the one with Senator Mullen around. Send the one with Senator Talon around. If you want to get interest up in the Select Committee, it'll be posted over at Hugh Hewitt YouTube. While you're there, like and subscribe. I read your comments. I know what you're doing. If you're in the Universe, you can send me your opinions on it. That I read my subtext over at the Universe. But over in my X feed, I've included a link for Food for the Poor and their effort to help the victims in Jamaica, which is devastated, absolutely crushed by Melissa, which is now ravaging Cuba. But Food for the Poor has operations in Jamaica. They know what to do. And I put the link in my X account over at Hugh Hewitt at X. Thank you.